Welcome, everyone, to the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. I'm your host, Desiree Stanley. And with us again is my special friend, Melissa Yamashita. Thank you again for coming on the show and joining us and sharing your knowledge with us, Melissa. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Thanks again for inviting me back, Desiree. It's really good to see you, and it's really good to be back here.
Awesome. And I am thrilled to have you back because you shared with us some great information in my very first episode of the Pockets of Knowledge. And so you're back to share some more fantastic information with us. Melissa, you are the owner and founder of My Nutrition, My Way. And you are also a certified nutrition coach. You're a
Yes.
fitness guru.
Well,
And you're also telling me that you're completing now certified next level training for menopausal athletes.
yeah,
And so this
yeah.
is exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Yeah, really exciting because this is a point in my life that I'm going through as well. So it's very relevant to me personally.
Yeah, definitely. And me as well. I'm in the same boat, and as are many of the listeners. So thank you again for
Okay.
joining us. We're going to talk a little bit about exercise. And
Mhm.
as you're going from your 30s, your 40s, into your
Mhm.
50s, and so on, and really the changes that you need to be considering as you're moving
Mhm.
through those decades. Before we jump into that, let's have you start with sharing your story briefly about what kind of
Well,
led you to launching My Nutrition, My Way, and fill us in with that.
okay. I wasn't athletic as a teen, as a young adult. I wasn't athletic. I was on the crew team at my college, but I was the coxswain, so I was more sedentary. But I was around athletes. And then I did a little bit of running here and there. It was fun, like 5Ks, 10Ks and stuff. But I would definitely not have considered myself an athlete or an athletic person. And as I moved into my 20s, early 30s, I had my first child, and I, like a lot of other people, I was waiting for something to switch to help me get into shape, the shape that I wanted to be in. And I don't know what happened, but I had this realization that I'm going to have to take the first step. I need to get this done. And so I started going to the gym with one of my friends every morning. And we just started going to the gym and we'd run on the treadmill for a little bit. And then it became a habit for me. And that just slowly developed into me getting into a little bit of weight training and then me doing longer runs and me eventually joining classes at the YMCA, which led to me becoming a group exercise instructor at the YMCA. And so this was a seemingly long process at the time, but looking back at it, with the evolution of it, I joined running groups, I met other people, and I surrounded myself eventually. My group of friends, my support system were the athletically minded, the like minded group of friends. And so now that has evolved into, oh, also, backstory, I have a degree in nutritional science from Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, but I never pursued that. It's not back in that day. It was more of like clinical studies, clinical work, and that's not what I wanted to do. But I did have that foundation, and I always liked food. Who doesn't really? I had that the fitness side of it. And then I started to delve into more of the nutrition aspect of it in order to boost my training and my performance. And then we put that together, and here we are. So yeah, it's been a like I said, a very kind of slowish evolution trajectory, but it was all very worthwhile. Like every single step of that process gave me the knowledge and the experience that I have now that I try to share with my clients. So yeah, all very helpful. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And you touched on something that we're going to expand on a little bit later, and that's the kind of accountability that you have with
Mhm.
the different people that you surround yourself with, the different groups that you've joined, and the friends that you've made through this. And so we can talk about that in a little bit, because I do want to kick it off with this idea of, as we're moving from our 30s into our 40s and 50s,
Yeah.
what kind of exercise do we need to be considering so that when we get into our 50s and our 60s and beyond,
Mhm.
we're still in good health and good fitness, and we can still live vibrant, healthy lives?
Yeah, definitely. This was a big shock for me. Like I said, I was teaching group fitness classes. I was doing my own personal training, running, marathons, endurance training. And I was lifting weights because I just enjoyed that. It really empowered me. And then about like my late 40s, early 50s, well, I'm only 54, so I'm still in my early 50s, but late 40s, maybe about 50, something just switched where before I was able to go out with friends and enjoy a couple of drinks, have some appetizers, and the next day I could still get up and pound out 6, 7 hard miles and feel fine, and then go to work and feel fine, recover fine, and then do that again, continue to do that. As I hit, like I said, 49, 50 years old, something just switched. And all of a sudden, I wasn't able to bounce back that way. If I would, nowadays, when I go out with friends and I have those same couple of drinks and the same appetizers, I'm done for a couple of days and I can feel the difference on my body. I can see the difference in my body. I can feel the difference mentally. And it's just that switch really affected me. And so I've had to change my exercise thought mindset and change a lot of things. So as we go after about the age of 30, there's this thing called sarcopenia, and it really just means that our bodies are shrinking. Our muscle mass is deteriorating, and we're just shedding muscle unless we are actively fighting day after day, week after week, consistently in order to keep that muscle. And that's why strength training is so important for us to do, because if you're losing 3 to 8% of your muscle mass from each decade going into your 70s, 80s, that's when you end up being that person who is wheelchair bound, being that person who needs to get help getting off the toilet, get help sitting down, get help getting up. And I don't want to be that person. I'm sure your listeners don't want to be that person. I know you don't want to be that person either. So we have to actively fight. So strength training is super important as you get in every stage of your life, but especially as you move into your golden years, whatever. It helps with bone density, so you can fight osteoporosis as well. For me, I get out all this stuff from the week when I'm exercising, when I'm strength training. It makes me feel very empowered as a woman as well, being in the gym and being able to bench press and lift and all that stuff. It's super empowering for me. So I think it's just really important to understand all of the different facets that building muscle hits in our lives. It's not just, I want to look big. I'm not doing this to be big. We shouldn't be weight training to be big. We shouldn't be exercising to be skinny. We should be doing it because we want to be strong. I want to be able to play with my grandchildren on the floor and then get up without them helping me. I want to be able to do that. And I'm sure you have people in your life that you can see are still very active. They're very active older adults. And then you see the other side of the coin as well, people who just sit in their recliner and watch television all day. Who do you want to be? I know who I want to be. And so it's definitely the former and not the latter. So yeah, but it's an active fight, active fight.
Yeah, you made some great points in there for sure about we need to be diligent in this
Mhm.
work. And it's not about being Arnold Schwarzenegger big or some of these other bodybuilders or whatever. It's not about that. It's maintaining and trying to keep the muscle that you have, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so that continues to carry you through.
Yeah.
Such a great point. And so let's maybe talk a little bit about, because you've mentioned how for you, the lifting is very empowering, but maybe for
Yeah.
somebody who's a little bit intimidated by that, what are some maybe things that they could try that they could do at home? Or if
Oh,
they
yeah.
are at a gym, what are some things that they could do?
So first of all, before we know, I don't know if it's a disclaimer or whatever. I just want to say women need to stop trying to shrink and fit into this type of like box or stereotype or whatever. We need to take up our space and don't be afraid to take up that space. Just like stand up and walk into the gym. And in all of the gyms that I have been in, there are always people at the desk who are very friendly and open to sharing their knowledge. If this is your first time, a lot of time as well as a new member, then they will take you on a little tour of the gym to give you some kind of like the down low on where the different machines are and stuff. I would recommend starting off with machines are a great way to start off. You want to get in your overhead pressing, you want to get in some kind of hinge movements, you want to get in some kind of squats, and you just watch the people around you. Watch the people around you. Also, too, ask somebody who looks like they've been there for a while, looks like they know what they're doing. Excuse me, ma'am, sir, how do you do this? I've been watching you. Why do you do that? What do you do? I think there's maybe some kind of stigma that a lot of people in the gyms are like, they're showing off or whatever. But I think a lot of people in the gym, we're all there for the same reason. We're all trying to just get in the healthiest, be as healthy as we can. So I think people would welcome questions. So you can go in, you can get a team member to take you on a tour and show you. A lot of times they'll offer like a personal training session for free. You can ask questions. There are plenty of YouTube videos online that are great YouTube videos that are free as well. There's a lot of things a lot of equipment that you can do at home. There's a full plethora of things that you could do. They have apps on your phone. The thing is that you want to make sure that I would suggest as a newcomer, go with a program and stick to it, right? Work on your form, watch the videos or watch somebody else, whomever it might be, work on your form, look at a mirror. The mirrors in the gyms are there for you to check your form, not to check your judgment, not for judgment. They're there for you to check your form. If you need to, videotape yourself when you are alone or when you have the permission of other people so you can see your form as well. You're not videotaping yourself again for just, this is what I would suggest. So you can check your form, make sure you're doing it right so you don't injure yourself and so you can progress and add weight. If you're doing it at home, just pick a time in the day where you can be consistent. Consistency is key. A lot of people like, oh, it's really hard for me. Oh, I don't know where I can fit it in. Oh, I don't have an hour, so I'm not going to go. I'm not going to do this because I don't have X amount of time. Forget that. Pare it down to 15 minutes, even 10 minutes done more consistently is better than 60 minutes, 2 hours inconsistently, right? You're not trying to be perfect. You're just trying to build that habit.
Yeah.
Those are my biggest tips for somebody.
Yeah, I love it. Those are excellent suggestions. And I think what you pointed out about the people at the gym where you can feel like maybe I shouldn't ask them, they're in the middle of their workout or they're busy or whatever. But I think we are often surprised. People are
Mm-hmm.
happy to share what they're doing and help you. And I think that we tend to be afraid to ask for help.
Yes.
But when we do, it gives that person an opportunity to be helpful. And then that
Exactly.
fills them up too. So I think that's something good to remember. And I love the point that you made about the consistency of even 10 minutes a day. If you're doing that consistently versus an hour that you only do once every couple of weeks.
Yes.
Right. What's better here? The 10 minutes consistently is far better.
Exactly.
So great.
There's things now that are called mini workout snacks. Some people call them workout snacks. And it's something that you can do like in your kitchen while you're waiting for your coffee to brew. Do 15, 20 squats or drop and do 10 push-ups. Or if you work at home, you need to stand up and walk around a little bit, then do some squats and do some push-ups, do some jumping jacks. I don't know, but just little bouts of exercise or movement interspersed within your day. You can't avoid it. We're all standing around at some point in the day. So movement. Yeah, just keep that body moving.
Yeah, excellent.
So
Good points. So then let's talk a little bit about the accountability that you can have with different groups and maybe some fun things that you can do together that kind of give you that motivation to do this work. Because let's face it, motivation is a problem for a lot of us. And so what do you suggest and some fun things to do?
So you can, if you have small children, just make movement part of your day with small children. It can be as something as simple as like dancing with them, something as taking them out for a walk. If you have pets, you and I both have pets. We love to take our dogs out for walks, right? The dogs need exercise. We need exercise. Do that. Things that have been extremely beneficial for me, surrounding yourself with like-minded people, right? There are tons of Facebook groups. You and I both were part of the Moms Run This Town in Morgan Hill and Gilroy. That's how we got our start. And then from there, you meet other people and you branch out. Well, you stay with the group. It's all good. But that accountability comes in group text, Facebook messages. Hey, I'm running on Sunday. Who's in? And if I say I'm in, unless, something really happens. So that the night before, I'm thinking, okay, I need to wake up and be ready to run by 5 o'clock. I better go to bed at, 9 o'clock. And then I need to eat this and drink this and all this stuff. You surround yourself with like-minded people. take advantage of your family members or your pets to get out there and go join Facebook groups. Again, it's like a little bit of putting yourself out there. You could also find an accountability partner. You and I both know the benefits of having an accountability partner. And that person, you're in it together, right? And you hold yourself accountable, exactly how it sounds. And I know that when I text my accountability partner at night, I am saying, I did this and tomorrow I'm going to do this. So I have it in the back of my head. I told her I was going to do that. I need to do that. I write my goals down every morning in my journal for today. And you got to be realistic about it. Today, sometimes it's like, I'm just going to do 15 minutes of something, just 15 minutes. But I have that in the back of my head that I committed to 15 minutes. And so I know I need to do that. At some point, we're all adults, right? You're an adult. You can't count on motivation all the time. So you have to build this discipline with the help of others in the beginning. And then when you have that discipline, that's when, motivation or not, you're getting things done. That's where single step, you just take that single step and then build from there. And that's how you get to the top of the staircase.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. And the point that you made about the accountability, and that is so huge. It really makes such a difference when you have committed to somebody else that you're going to do something. I think that gives us that kind of pressure that, okay,
Mhm.
I better do what I said I'm going to do because I
Yes.
told them I was going to do it. Or if I said I'm going to be there, I better be there because they're counting on me. And
Yes.
I think that helps when we don't have that motivation for sure. So, what about and you started this group where it's like fun challenges to do with other people. And so, do
Oh,
you want
yeah.
to share that with us?
I started the New Year, New Me on Facebook. One of the fitness groups that I belong to, we did a month long through the month of January, just a little habit challenge. And it wasn't specific to fitness or nutrition. It was a lot of things. Well, it was specific to fitness in the sense that it was a holistic approach to building habits that would help you just take your life up a notch. So some of the habits were, and again, they weren't like huge habits. They were all very accessible. 7 minutes of meditation a day, 20 minutes of nonfiction reading, drinking half your body weight in ounces of water a day, starting off your day with a high protein breakfast, 7 hours of sleep a night. And one that I took on, which was challenging for me, turning off all tech, screens, technology, phone, everything an hour before bedtime. For the challenge, everybody chose three habits. And then for each day, you would get 2 points if you completed that habit. And then 1 point if you attempted the habit but didn't fully complete it. I didn't want to penalize anybody for starting the habit in good faith, but not being able to complete it, because then you get deterred and you're like, oh, if I can't do it fully, I'm not even going to do it. The whole idea was to build consistency, but also that more than nothing, right? That whole more than nothing instead of the all or nothing. So there was a day, for example, what my three habits were: 7 minutes of meditation, 1 hour of no technology before bed, and 20 minutes of nonfiction reading. One night, for example, I was meditating. I'm not the best meditator, but I was trying my best. And I was like 5 minutes in, and the dog is scratching at the door to get into the bedroom. And I could not ignore it any longer. But I figured, okay, good faith attempt. I at one point, I tried it. The next day, I was able, for the rest of the time, I was able to complete it because I would announce. Then I announced to the family, hey, I'm meditating now, so nobody would bother me. I learned, like, I figured out what I had to tweak. Other members too. Oh, I said I'm going to drink half my body weight in water. I need to buy a bigger water bottle because I'm a bigger guy, or I went on this road trip and I didn't have my water with me. I need to remember to buy extra bottles and make sure they're strategically located, all sorts of things. There are all sorts of little, oh yeah, light bulb moments that people have. I think it was really helpful. There was one participant in the challenge who realized, I think 2 weeks into the challenge, she realized that she was working two jobs, and she realized that she was putting her health like third on her list of priorities. Job one, job two, her health. And so she quit one of her jobs because of this challenge. She quit one of her jobs took her 3 habits into full swing and has now committed to working on her health. That's what the power of these 30-day challenges can do. When it's just like a team getting together, putting our heads together. We had weekly Zoom check-ins. Hey, what's going well for you? What's not going well for you? How did you overcome this? And just all that support and communication and talk and dialogue and all that stuff was super helpful for a lot of people. Helpful to the point where we're going to continue on with our weekly check-ins. Even though the challenge has officially ended, we're going to continue on with our weekly check-ins. So that's a huge plus, right? That's a huge win. Yeah. So I'm super stoked about that. Very happy.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
excellent. Thank you for sharing all
Yeah.
of that with us. And I love the idea of more than nothing versus all or nothing. I think that's a huge thing that we need to remember, that you're making an effort and give yourself that credit that you tried. And
Right.
even if you couldn't finish it, you
Mhm.
still made the effort and tried. I think that's huge because
Mhm.
so often we just throw our hands up in the air and say, I couldn't do it. And so that's it. And
Right.
that actually leads me to this question I was going to ask you is this episode's going to air in February. How many people
Mhm.
have New Year's resolutions for health and fitness and all of this?
Yes.
And at this point, how many people have just said, forget it?
Yeah.
And so for those people who maybe are hitting that point, what can they do to carry on? And something that I love the idea of is that every day is a new day.
Exactly.
You don't need to wait for a Monday. You don't need to
Exactly.
wait for January 1st. So what
Right.
are your thoughts on this?
Totally. I totally agree with that. A lot of people are set in this, oh, Monday. And in the meantime, I am going to spiral out of control because it's Friday right now and I'm going to enjoy the weekend and go full force on the debauchery and decadence. And then on Monday, I will automatically reel it in. That's not practical, right? So just get rid of that again, starting new on Monday mindset. Just start with your next meal. You are one meal away from being healthier. You are one walk away from being healthier, one bike ride away from, one phone call away, maybe more better mental health. It's just taking that next step. What's that little step that you can take? And if it doesn't have to be a big one, it doesn't have to be like, okay, I'm going to go vegan in my next meal. No, just eat some carrots for Pete's sake. Eat some carrots with, if you're going to have a hamburger, okay, just eat some carrots with your hamburger. Add something small in, right? Go for a 10-minute walk after dinner. That's not going to kill you. It's fine. And then you can come back and do whatever you want. Not really. Pick up a book and just turn off the television for a second and read a couple pages of a book. Because the studies show that if you put on your shoes to go out for a walk and you get into your mind, okay, I'm going to go 5 minute for walk. Chances are you're going to go for longer than 5 minutes, right? You're like, I got my shoes on already. It's a beautiful day. I'm already out here. I might as well go for 7, 10, 20 minutes. Or if I get to a really good place in my book, oh, this is really interesting for me. I'm not going to put it down yet. I'm going to read for longer. So you just take that baby step. It doesn't have to be big. And you can't wait for motivation because you've got to be your own motivation. You've got to be your own motivation. Again, you've got to step it up, step up.
Oh, yeah, 100% agree with that. And I love the idea of baby steps. And that goes along with a book that you and I have both read, Atomic Habits.
Yes.
And I've had other podcast guests mention it. It is such a great book. Okay.
I've got it right here. Yeah.
So you just were holding it up for the listeners and all included in the show notes. I've had multiple guests who've talked about this book because it is so fantastic. His ideas of just a percentage better, like every day, and
Yes.
his habit stacking, you're kind of tying habits
Yes.
together. Once you get something under your belt and you've got that down, what else can you tie to that? And then
Right.
now you've got two habits and you're moving forward. So I love the idea of baby steps and just that, all right, I'm going to just not go crazy this next meal. I'm going to reel it in and I'm going to just add this vegetable in or whatever it is. So I love that an idea to bring you back to where you wanted to be without it having to
Yeah.
be a Monday.
It doesn't have to be this huge undertaking, right? Because then that's going to overwhelm people.
Mhm.
It's just take it small. Okay. Start with
Yeah.
something. And yeah, remember in Atomic Habits, he's talking about goals. Everybody has the same goal. Everybody wants to be strong, fast, fit, funny, smart, live long, right? But if you don't have those habits to support that, everybody wants that, right? So it's not about the goal. It's not about having goals. It's about having habits. It's about having that system that's going to get you to the goal. So what's this next thing? And what's something I'm all about? Adding things in. And especially as a nutrition coach, adding things in as opposed to taking things away. We get very resistant when people come say, you're not going to eat carbs, you're not going to eat this, you're not going to do this. Some people get very resistant to that. And I understand that. So let's add something in. And little by little, eventually all that other stuff will get overshadowed.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
lot
that's
easier
excellent.
to add than it is to subtract.
Yeah,
So
no, I
yeah,
love that. I love that point you just made. People do become very resistant when you say you can't have this or we're taking this away. And suddenly you're like, but no, I don't want to give that up. I don't want to. And then, or you have it on the side and you're pretending like you're
yeah,
not having it, but
yeah,
you're still having
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's such a great thing. That shift in the mindset, I think, is big. So you just shared with us an approach, but what are maybe some other things that people can do, like maybe that are effective in helping people to reach these goals that they've set for themselves?
So talking about goals specifically, write them down, share them. That's what I have found. For me, like I said, at the beginning of the week on Sundays, I write down my goals for the upcoming week, and they're very small. I want to do 3 strength training sessions. I'm doing this course, so I want to spend 2 sessions in this course, 2 25-minute sessions on this course. I'm not overshooting. And I even go to the extent where I plan out my week, Monday, Tuesday. I write the days of the week out. And then I look at my calendar. I say, okay, I've got this going on after school. So I'm not going to have much time here, but I think I will have 15 minutes to spend on this. I plan where I'm going to put my goals in. Monday, I'm going to do my strength training, and Thursday and Saturday, I'm going to do my strength training. I write it in my journal. And then every morning, I look, what do I have planned for today? Okay. Now, is there anything else I need to do on top of that? Do I need to call my mom, for example? Write that in. I just write these things down. And then in my text messages to my accountability partner at night, this is what I did. Or unfortunately, sometimes this is what I didn't do. And then that helps me stay on track. So writing things down. What I have read is I've done this where I put little post-its on my mirror, in my bathroom mirror, right? But what I have read and what I have found true for myself is that after a while, I overlook those same post-its. The post-its have been up there for so long that I have started to overlook them. And I just gloss over them. It's become part of the mirror. The act of writing them down every single day makes them stick more, makes them more effective. That's what I've started to do. That, tell somebody, share them. There was one point when I was like, I felt like my strength training was lax. I was getting lax in my strength training. So on social media, on Instagram, I wrote out in my journal, I would write out my strength training plans. This is exactly what I'm going to do. Take a picture of that. That was my social media post for the day. Not very social, but whatever. It worked for me. I figured if I showed everybody, then I would be more accountable for it. And it worked. I don't do that anymore because I feel like it's become more of a habit. Definitely sharing your goals with other people, but being like we always say, the SMART goals, being very specific. If your goal is let's build 5% muscle mass, right? Then break it down. How many times do you need to get in the gym? 3 days a week, you're going to get in the gym. What does that look like? Okay. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay. So Monday, you're going to do upper body. Wednesday, you're going to do lower body. Friday, you're going to do full body. That's what you're going to do. Boom. And so you just need to be very specific. And then you pull in people. Hey, friend, I'm doing this. You in? Let's go. Come on. And then you pull in people and then, okay, where are you at? I'm on my way to the gym. You in? Are you on your way? Let's go. It's just, yeah, finding like-minded people, writing your goals down, finding like-minded people and holding them accountable, having them hold you accountable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
tips. I love the point that you made about the post-it notes do just become like this thing that you don't even see anymore. And
Right.
the idea that you're writing it down, at least that's the start. And
Mhm.
perhaps you take the Post-it note and move it to a different place every day. And so then
Yeah.
you're rereading it because now it's not just
Yes.
part of the scenery. But the
Right.
idea of you writing it down every single day, that physical movement links it more, right? There's been study after
Exactly.
study about how important it is to write the things, and it just activates the brain differently. And yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great tip. And of course, again, going back to sharing the goal that you have with other people so that they can ask you, hey, did you do that thing? Or
Exactly.
I better do this thing because I said I was going to do this thing. Yeah,
Right.
love it.
Yeah.
So
Really
then
important.
it is for sure. I want to ask you about the idea of when we're struggling with maintaining this long term, because
Mhm.
this isn't something, because we often do this. We'll start something and just, okay, I can't keep this up. So, how do we set this up so that it's something that we can continue to do for the long term?
Yeah. I always have my clients, we focus on a couple of things. So the main focus, if we're talking about building muscle for longevity, main focus is protein intake and strength training. So, protein intake, figure out how much protein you want to intake in a day and start off with a heavy, high protein breakfast. That's one thing that you need to work on. So, protein breakfast, everything else will whatever. Don't worry about how much carbs, how many fats, how much what your other meals like. Just start off with your high protein breakfast. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, get some strength training in. At least, I'd love to say 3 days a week. 3 days a week, 30 minutes a day would be optimal. Okay. Is that going to be in your room? Is that going to be out in the park? Is that going to be in the gym? It doesn't matter where it is. It needs to be challenging. So if you're doing body weight, it's going to be more repetitions. If you're in the gym and you have weights, then it's going to be less repetitions. So you just start small. Those two things. That's what I would suggest. Start small. When you have those, when you are consistently doing those after a month, maybe a couple of months for some people, then you add in other things. Then you add in extra water, you add in extra steps during the day, things like that. But you need to start off with 1 or 2 habits and then you build. But I would say for longevity, which is what I believe we're talking about here, strength training and protein intake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Protein used to be thought of as, oh, all those beefy bodybuilders in the gym with their big tubs of whey protein. Oh my gosh, I don't want to be that person. But protein is tied to all of our metabolic and hormonal functions. It's tied to everything. As we're sleeping, we're breaking down muscle. So as soon when we get up, our first meal of the day should be very high protein. So in order to stop that breakdown and start building up, especially if you're an athlete and you're breaking down aminos, proteins in your muscles in your body, you need to support that and you need to break that up. Strength training too. Strength training, building muscle on your body helps with all of your metabolic functions. It helps control your glucose levels. So it can help prevent diabetes, if all sorts of things, bone health, joint health, all of that stuff are tied to muscle. So those two things, and if you don't have them together, then you're missing a huge part of the equation. If you're working your butt off in the gym, but you're not supporting it with proper protein intake, you're leaving so much on the table. And vice versa. You can be eating all the protein, but if you're not actually using it to build active muscle, there has been a study where they upped the protein in women. They just upped the protein. They didn't change anything else. They didn't add resistant training or anything. And those women still had more muscle than a group of women in which they didn't have adequate protein intake. So adequate protein intake, I would say, would be the first and foremost thing to do. Yeah.
Okay.
And
That's
it's not,
that's
it can
good.
be plant protein or animal protein, either
Yeah,
one.
good to know, because
It is.
I
Yeah.
I think that there's so much information out, and that sometimes it can be extremely confusing about what you need
Hmm.
to do and how you need to do
Hmm.
it. And so it's good to know that just by having a good, solid, high protein breakfast,
Yes.
that's going to start your day, and then get your
Yes.
exercise in if you can. ideally 30 minutes a
Yes.
day.
Yeah.
But I love how you said start small and build on that as you can, as you're getting into the routine of it. Excellent points.
Yeah.
And then thank you for sharing about the plant protein because not everybody eats animal protein. And so it's just as good for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You have to be intentional. You have to be a little bit more intentional if you're doing plant protein, but it can totally work. There's a ton of vegan bodybuilders. There's a ton of vegan athletes who do very well, perform very well on a vegan diet. And you have to make sure it's right for your body. Like every body is different, not to be cliche, but literally every body is different. I can't train one client the same way that I train another client. And I have found that the story I shared with you earlier, my body changes and evolves as I go through patterns, age, and lifestyles and things like that. But this all takes intention, right? Like you have to start with the right intention or else nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to get done. It's a very intentional, but very beneficial. Like a little bit of intention will take you a long way. So as long as you're taking the right steps. Yeah. Very exciting.
Definitely. So you did share some success with a particular client, but
Oh,
is there anything else that you want to share? Like any other clients that maybe made a change that they didn't think that they could do that you found super inspirational and they do as well?
my biggest successes with clients have been in habits, like sustainable habits that they've gone away and said, wow, now I know why I need to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm able to act on X, Y, and Z. And I feel like I can do that for the rest of my life, right? Or I feel like if I get off track, I know where to go back. So it's just that education, I think, that has been very helpful. I have a client right now who is a endurance runner and she had an injury a couple years back and so she's recovering from that and she gained more weight than she wanted to and all this stuff. We're working on losing weight, we're working on strength training, we're working on good nutrition, and the numbers on the scale haven't gone down like as much. And sometimes, oh, are you okay with this? And she's, her performance though, she feels much better in her run. She's able to power up the uphills. There was a friend of hers who hadn't seen her for a couple of months. She's, oh my gosh, her composition has changed. So that's huge. I try to get my clients off of this, oh, the number in the scale isn't budging. That's because you have muscle now instead of your fat cells have shrunk and your muscle cells have gotten bigger. That's awesome. That's what we want. I have another client who never wanted weight loss as her goal. And when we first started working together, she ate like a 5-year-old and she didn't eat vegetables. She just didn't know. She hadn't been exposed to a lot of diverse eating. And so we started working very slow. We started working and incorporating. And then I'd begin that conversation like, okay, we need to talk about vegetables. Okay. And she was willing. She was a very willing client to taking those steps. Now this woman is doing Orange Theory Fitness twice on Wednesdays. She's running. Oh yeah, I got my vegetables. She's eating vegetables and incorporating things in just left and right. She's hitting her steps goal. She's hitting her water goal. She used to be a soda fiend and now she's, oh, I haven't had a soda in weeks, and it's all coming from her. This is all led by her. It wasn't like Melissa saying, you got to do this and this. And it was a slower process. I'm like, hey, share a non-scale victory with me. And she said she's going to be in a wedding soon. The dress fit me like a glove. I don't need to wear shapewear. And I feel confident. I'm like, hell yeah, that's what we do this for, to feel confident in our bodies, right? To get back that confidence. That's what we do it for. So yeah. And to the extent that she's okay, I think I got this. Unfortunately for me, I don't know if I'm going to be needing your services anymore, but I'm like, that's what I'm here for. I'm not supposed to be your lifelong chain, whatever. I'm just, let's get you started. Let's go instill these habits. And then boom, you're on your own and you've got this. That's the really cool part of this, Desiree, like those non-scale victories and seeing women just get strong and just take over or take back, I should say, take back, really.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you for sharing those with us, Melissa.
Yeah.
The point about the non-scale victory, so often we're just so concerned about what the scale says and forgetting that muscle weighs more than fat, and your
Yes.
body composition is changing. And that
Yes.
is really what's more important, to remember that you are becoming stronger, you are becoming more fit, and you're looking healthier and feeling stronger,
Yeah.
right? Those are far
More
more important.
energy, you sleep better, you think better, you're not having that slump in the afternoon, skin is clearer, and yeah, it's really cool.
And the
Very
point that you
important.
made about intention, and that
Mhm.
it has to be your intention to make these changes, to add in the fitness, the strength, change your whatever it may be, you're eating, if you're a soda drinker, like you suggested that
Mhm.
one client was, it has to be your intention to make these changes. And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
such a great point, is that when the decision is yours and you truly are invested in making this happen, that's when you're going to see those changes. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's why you pay a coach, right? You pay a coach because you're invested in this. It is an investment, a true investment in your health. And you're going to see the benefits. If you keep taking these steps, you're going to see the benefits of it. So, yeah,
Awesome.
to be ready.
Before we close out, I want to ask my guests, I always do, I'd love to know what books that you've read or are
Oh,
reading
yeah.
that you have found beneficial. And we mentioned Atomic Habits earlier. Was there
Yes.
any others that you'd like to suggest?
Yeah. So I have a pile here, but I'm not going to hold them up because you can't see them very well. But one book that and my husband totally agreed with this on is a book called Essentialism by Greg McKeown. The Disciplined Pursuit of Less. Have you heard about this book?
No.
Okay, so essentialism, this is exactly what is essential in your life? And I am all about this. We say we have priorities, and priority is supposed to be one. There's only supposed to be one, maybe two priorities. People have a long list of priorities, like a laundry list of priorities. No. What are your two priorities? Because if it's down here, then that's not really a priority, right? What is essential in your life? How do you pare down all that other noise in there in order to hit what is essential in your priority? Excellent book, Essentialism, The Disciplined Pursuit of Less. Another book that I just finished reading is a book called Forever Strong by Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. And she has an amazing podcast. She gets some great hosts on there. And this is Forever Strong, a new science based strategy for aging well. And everything that I say about muscle centric movement is from this book. Her mantra, theme, whatever you want to call it, is as a society, we are not overweight, we are under muscled. Building muscle, her ideas is like muscle centric. Everything is muscle centric. Nutrition, exercise, plan, everything muscle centric. And then keep this brief. And then a kind of book to round things out is a book called Built to Move by Kelly and Juliet Starrett. 10 essential habits to help you move freely and live fully. So it has 10 habits and they range from breathing, like a breath test, to the sitting on the floor, standing up test. It goes from movement to nutrition to breathing. And so it has all these 10 tests that they say that if you can pass these tests, then you are going to live a long, healthy life. So the 800 grams of fruits and vegetables, if you're eating 800 grams of fruits and vegetables on a daily basis, then you are going to fight off a lot of cancers, a lot of heart diseases, etc. If you're able to sit down on the floor cross-legged and stand up, you have a great range of mobility. You are going to XYZ. Some of them are hard. Breathing test, hold your breath for however long. And that's just good markers to see where you're at. And then they have exercises to show you if you're down here, how are we going to get you up here, and practical movements and exercises that you can do. So that's my rounded out to read.
Some great suggestions there. So thank you for sharing those with us. I'll include
You're
that
welcome.
information in the show notes, of course. And then you
Okay.
mentioned that there's a podcast also. So would you
Yes.
tell us that one again? And if there's any others you'd like to share?
Yeah, the doctor's name is Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. She has a great podcast and she has because she's so respected in the medical field and in the nutrition slash aging kind of field. I think she's a doctor of geriatrics or something like that. Then she has a lot of like-minded guests on. So really cool conversations about stuff. Another podcast that I listen to pretty regularly is called and I Optimize Me. I believe that's the name of it. And it's a woman named E.C. Sinkowski. She was on the board with the CrossFit Games. She is also a doctor of nutrition. And she just very concise explanations in 30 minutes. She'll go down and talk about different diet fads, or she'll talk about the benefits of strength training or how ketogenic play in your body, things like that. She just breaks things down in such an easy to understand way that makes it very accessible to everybody. So there's a ton of knowledge out there. And I tend to listen to the same people as they are guests on because they're just reiterating and verifying and validating the same message. And I just love that message. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing those with us.
You're
Lastly,
welcome.
Melissa, if people have questions, they want to ask
Yeah.
you, pick your brain, learn a little bit more about how they can reach these goals that they're setting for themselves, how would they be able to get a hold of you?
My website is My Nutrition My Way. It's a little bit of a play. The my is a play on my initials. MyNutritionMyWay.com. I am on Instagram, My Nutrition My Way. I also have a Facebook page. I'm not a super huge presence on social media. I have a lot of things to say, but as far as pictures, I'm not the best at it. I'm better at conversation. So reach out to me. You can find my email on mynutritionmyway.com. You'll post it in the show notes. So anything, I'd be glad to have conversations with you. I always offer a free initial Zoom consultation, in-person consultation. If you live in the Morgan Hill, South County of Bay Area, California, telephone conversation, whatever, a free initial conversation. We can talk about how I can help you reach your goals and help you optimize your nutrition, because that's what I'm all about. I'm figuring out for myself, and I really want to share my knowledge and experience with everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Melissa, for your time and sharing it with us and the knowledge that you've just imparted to all of us. I love it so much. So thank you again
Thanks,
for being on the
Des.
show.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Thanks for inviting me back. I feel so honored to be a return guest here.
I love it. Okay. Thanks, Melissa. We'll talk more soon.
Okay.
Thank you, dear listeners, for tuning in to another insightful episode of the Pockets of Knowledge podcast. We appreciate your time and curiosity as we explore fascinating topics together. If you enjoyed today's discussion, be sure to join us next week for another amazing episode. Remember, your journey of learning and growth is a continuous adventure, and we're thrilled to be part of it. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Until next week, stay curious and keep exploring those pockets of knowledge.